Hello, welcome to my channel. My name's Alana, and I wanted to show you how I made these personalized ring dishes or trinket dishes. I picked up these little ceramic dishes from my local grocery store, Save on Foods. They've actually had a few different shapes I've seen over the years. I have these star ones, and I have this kind of scallopy, flower-ish shaped dish. And I've also found some little square ones, the one I'll be using today for myself from the dollar store. But I would check out Walmart, Target, like they're just little dishes. But they are meant for food. They can say they can go in the dishwasher or microwave, but of course not once you put epoxy in them. Okay, so I have my little dish. I have my gloves on. Of course, I always wear a respirator. And of course, some epoxy. I'm using Faux Rizzle, also known as countertop epoxy, the Nouveau resin. This is just a different label, their new label. And I'm just showing you here, this is the old label, but it's the same thing. And there'll be a discount code for it in the description below. And I have my little butane kitchen torch to pop the bubbles. It's really dirty and full of epoxy, but that's okay. And the last thing you'll need is a pigment or a glitter, whatever you want to color your resin with. You can even put dried flowers or gold flakes, whatever you want to use. So now it's time to mix up your epoxy as per the instructions of the type you are using. This Nouveau 1 by Faux Rizzle is a 1-to-1 ratio measured by volume. So just like it says on the instructions, I am mixing it for 3 minutes. Then I'm pouring it into a clean container, adding my glitter or pigment, and mixing for an additional 3 minutes. Now I know people are going to ask me, how much should you make? But it really depends on the dish that you are using, but you really don't need much, just enough to cover the bottom layer of the dish. And if you want it a little deeper, that's totally up to you. I mixed up quite a bit of resin, but I'm not using all of it for this tiny dish. I was saving some for a mold I was about to use right after this. Okay, so I've now added my glitter to the epoxy. I'm going to mix that in there. And then with the popsicle stick, I'm going to take a look to see if I like the amount of glitter. And I've decided that's not enough glitter, so I've added more. And now I'm happy with it. Be careful when adding any additive to your epoxy, whether it be a pigment or glitter. You don't want to add too much because it will really thicken up your epoxy to almost be unusable. I've seen some rule of thumbs is don't use more than 10% of the volume of epoxy, and I've seen some say don't use more than 6%. So less is more. Add some, see how it is, add some more from there. Don't add a lot off the get-go. So I'm slowly adding the resin into the dish in one spot to try to reduce the amount of air bubbles. And then with my torch, I'm just popping the air bubbles. I don't have to be as careful as if I was using a silicone mold, but still you need to be careful as not to burn your epoxy. And that's it. Now I'm just going to let it sit overnight before I go ahead and add the final and another layer of epoxy. So now my dish has cured and I let it sit overnight, maybe even a little bit longer, but it's fully dried. So I've cut out my name with my cricut and I used the TECKWRAP Opal White. And with such a thin, fine font, I am going to want to reverse weed. So to do that, I'm just going to start with my weeding tool and take out the insides of any letters. So the inside loop with the L, inside of the A, just the inside pieces only. Then I'm taking a piece of transfer tape. I'm using Duck brand peel and stick. I'll have it linked down below. Rub that on good. And then you're carefully and slowly going to peel away the transfer tape and pick up your thin, fine font. If you're not using a fine font, you might not even be using your name, you might be using an image, you might not have to do this. But for this font, I definitely had to reverse weed. Now I realize the vinyl I chose really blends into the glitter, but I like that and I don't mind it whatsoever. But of course you can pick a different vinyl that really pops, maybe a gold chrome or glitter vinyl or black or whatever you choose. So mixing epoxy again as per instructions. You need very, very little epoxy, just enough to do a top layer to protect that vinyl. And I'm just making it level as possible and touching all four corners. I felt like I got some epoxy on the outside of the dish, so I'm just using a baby wipe to clean that up so it doesn't cure. And I'm done. I let it sit for another day. It's all dry and hard. Now, Nouveau Faux Rizzle is scratch resistant, but you can also add a couple of drops of Rizzle Resist to make it even more scratch resistant. So you don't have to worry about putting your jewelry in there. It's not going to scratch this up. And this is the Rizzle Resist. You just add a few drops on it and buff it in. That's it. If you do end up making one, be sure to tag me on Instagram so I can see how yours turned out. Thanks.